Welcome everyone, StealthyShiroean here, and today I'm bringing you my review of the Humble Choice bundle for August 2026. While this month does have lows, there's some also really big highs for me as well. Let me know what you think of this month's bundle in the comments below. Be sure to check the timestamps for specific games, and stay tuned for my final thoughts in the end. Okay, let's get to the review. Starting off the bundle is Dark Envoy, a tactical real-time with pause CRPG. This is one of those games that is basically the epitome of a Humble Choice filler. It's not bad, but it's not all that great either. Combat felt decent. I liked how snappy it felt with casting abilities, and that your mana regenerated so you never felt like you needed to wait for the perfect moments. Basically, the game wanted you to use your skills as effectively as possible within each fight. This made everything feel much more hands-on rather than watching the action play out. Additionally, there's a certain amount of repositioning you'll need to do, either from enemy telegraphs or because they've suddenly appeared behind you, and you need to move a caster away or hide someone behind cover. On normal difficulty, for my hour, the fights felt a bit too easy with only some offering any real challenge. So perhaps for someone more skilled, choose something higher. That said, I tend to play an RPG because I'm interested in its world or story, and yeah, Dark Envoy leaves much to be desired. It immediately starts the game by telling players there's a galactic level threat of space energy beings gobbling up the galaxy, before essentially having you forget all that and takes you to some random planet that hasn't been touched, and introducing our two protagonists, brother and sister Malachi and Kayla. After that, the game constantly name drops people, places, and groups, knowing full well the player doesn't know what any of this is. The story does a poor job to ease players naturally, resulting in everything feeling clunky. It didn't help that the voice acting was just okay.
That's close enough, you two. We're not allowed to let any more archaeologists down there.
And who's telling you not to let anyone pass?
The people who are paying us.
It's the Empire, isn't it? We've seen their outposts on our way here.
So, what are you gonna do if we try to go down there?
Calm down, Jeremy. He's just asking.
All you need to know is they're paying us to make sure no one's snooping around.
I don't really see myself coming back to it, but at the same time, I wouldn't 100% write it off if you're okay with the subpart storytelling. Next, we have Pile Up, which is a game about building a vertical city in a really small space. The main aspect of this game just seems to be a chill vibe while building neat-looking towering neighborhoods. There are other elements to your city building, but the fun really is just seeing it all come together. And when you find just the right spot to fill for that one specific small building. However, as opposed to something like Townscaper, this is more than just a neat diorama maker. Every turn, you're given a bunch of buildings to place that are manufactured from your factories. If you ever run out of buildings to place, then you lose. Many of these buildings will be homes and amenities. The homes will give you more population, which can unlock other buildings in a run, and ultimately win you the game if you reach the final population milestone. These homes have wants that are provided by nearby amenities. The ones I encountered were gas, electricity, and water. If you ever have too many people but not enough happiness, then you also lose. So the puzzle becomes trying to place buildings optimally so they get the coverage they need. Buildings can further have other features making them undesirable to place next to something else. For instance, placing an electrical generator near a gas furnace will cause an explosion. I enjoyed my time with it, even if I'm unsure if I'd ever play it again. That said, I saw a lot of Steam reviews mention that there were game-breaking bugs causing them to lose their progress. I didn't encounter anything like that, but did get a message telling me it wouldn't start because of some Windows security feature blocking it. So I had to turn that off in order to get the game started, which was weird. So take from that what you will. After getting some rather unique roguelites last month, we get Gatekeeper this month, which felt more run-of-the-mill to me. It's an isometric roguelike action game described to be fast-paced. Personally, I found it kind of slow. My character floated around the map rather slowly to where I ended up grabbing movement speed upgrades just so I could get from one end to the other faster. Casting times for some of my skills also felt slow, or even non-responsive. I know there were several times where I tried to use my dash, which wasn't on cooldown, for it not to work. I assumed it was because I was getting hurt or in the middle of firing my basic attack. Probably the most exciting moments are when you do the boss fights. But really, it just meant that I would circle around the boss and shoot at it while firing off my other skills. If it caught some ads, then great. If it caught the boss, then great. It could have been the class I played, which was just the first one out of the initial 2 unlocked. Also, I played this on the default difficulty that it started on, which is probably worth pointing out. Overall though, I just felt this game wasn't really that inspired. The environments and character designs, for the players and enemies, felt passable, but nothing stood out to me. If anything, it was a reminder to me to go back and give Risk of Rain 2 another shot, which we got way back in June 2024's choice. Conquest Dark is a dark fantasy roguelite inspired from things like Conan and Dark Sun, and an ARPG feel taking inspirations from things like Diablo. However, don't be mistaken, it definitely is another Survivors-like game. And I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. Despite never quite gravitating to these kinds of games, I found myself enjoying it. But I think it's because of that simple dopamine hit of constantly leveling up and taking out hordes of enemies, which is always going to be fun. I did feel the maps were too small, although even if they made it 3 times the size, I don't think it would change anything much. I'd probably still be circling around just in a larger area unless they made the maps more interesting. Additionally, the game has a deep build system, which I thought was neat. You start each run by choosing a race, class, and background, which modifies your stats slightly. Each run has you starting naked, nearby a kind enemy willing to drop you a weapon once you punch its head off. From there you gain armor pieces and abilities which all modify your build as would be the case in any of these games. What's nice about Conquest Dark is there's an auto build feature for those who don't want to deal with planning out a build, which I thought was kind of crazy because otherwise, why play the game? But you could take it further by designing your own builds and saving them, or just saving a build at the end of a run for you to use again. It's a nice way for build crafters to experiment with a bunch of different things and probably end up making some really overpowered stuff. I really don't know how much I'd stick around with this game, simply because I know I'd hate the grind. I'd say with Conquest Dark you probably need to be interested in it for its thematic first and foremost. Personally, I think it's cool, and that would be the strongest reason for me to come back. Decktamer is an answer to the question of what would you get if you mix deck building roguelike with Monster Tamer. At the start, you get a starting set of creatures and choose your encounter. It shows the monsters you'll face and their abilities along with any rewards. Many battles have multiple lanes to contend with, but the monsters always face off against the opponent opposite to them unless the lane gets cleared. Each monster selects an attack and the enemy's actions are visible to the player. You're free to choose your abilities and even move monsters around in a lane, or use items to try and influence the outcome in your favor. When a monster's health gets low, then that's when you can do a couple things. Well, first, if it's your monster, then you need to decide if you want to recall it to swap it out or not. However, you're only allowed to swap out one monster per round. And the reason why you'd want to do this is because once a monster loses all of its health, then it's dead and removed from your deck. If it's an enemy monster, well then that's where the game's title can come into play. Depending on what food the monster likes and how hurt it is, there's a chance you can tame it by feeding it. Essentially, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone by eliminating an enemy monster from the board and adding another fighter to your deck. It's especially satisfying when you get a strong monster and then get an event that lets you copy that card. I thought the concept was unique and I had a fun hour, but I also know I probably won't play it again. These games simply aren't my cup of tea, so I don't usually pick them up, and if I'm being honest, I wasn't a big fan of the art. Some monsters look fine, but many of them I didn't care for the design or the art style. Following that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, a homage to classic beat-em-up games, including classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle beat-em-ups. Despite being a 90s kid, I actually didn't really watch that much TMNT, so I don't have the nostalgia some people have for the franchise. That said, playing this felt nostalgic for me simply because it's such a great callback to the 16-bit era. The sprite work and music are especially good. As a beat-em-up game goes, I feel like there's not a whole lot to say here. You pick your character being one of the 4 turtles, and a slew of others being supporting cast or added roster members through DLC, and then you get to button mashing your enemies until they can't see straight anymore. And since beat 'em ups are always best played in co-op, I asked my 6-year-old if she wanted to play with me. Of course she did. We had a blast going through the levels. Granted, I did set the game to easy, but really that ended up being the perfect difficulty level. And I don't just mean for her. Any higher and I probably would have felt it was too difficult, but this is coming from someone who doesn't play this genre. Each level has different collectibles to find as well as challenges to complete. It seemed that when we did those things, it unlocked new moves and extra health/power for our characters. For those familiar with the franchise, along with the playable characters, it also seemed to have several villains that I assume the Turtles have faced before, along with several varied locations. It was a lot of fun, and I'm pretty sure I'm coming back to this game, if only because my daughter will probably ask if we could play that one turtle fighting game again. Wow, I can't believe Dead Cells ended up in Humble Choice. I actually gave up hope a while ago that it was ever going to end up in the monthly bundle, but here we are. Thankfully, I never ended up buying it, so I guess good things do come to those who wait. For those who don't know, Dead Cells is a roguelite Metroidvania. And it's good. Like, really good. As many of you know, I don't usually care for the rinse and repeat process that a roguelite makes you go through, but Dead Cells is definitely one of those exceptions. The moment-to-moment gameplay is a lot of fun. In the beginning, you start with a rusty sword and the choice between a bow and a shield. I always chose the shield because it lets you parry attacks which damages the enemy and stuns them for a bit. Normally, I wouldn't bother with parrying in games because I usually suck at it. However, I thought Dead Cells parry windows are quite generous. Many of the times when I missed a parry, it was because I was being attacked by multiple enemies, or I was too much in a rush to get through the area. Now, you'd think that should mean slow down, smell the roses, and actually land your parries. But Dead Cells has a reward system in place where if you complete a section fast enough, then you can get new equipment and cells, which is the currency used to buy permanent upgrades. Additionally, there's another reward for players who could take out a certain number of enemies without taking damage. I imagine a skilled player can do both. Anyway, there was always another upgrade I was trying to unlock that attempting to get the extra cells at the end of each area was really enticing. By the end of my hour, which actually ended up being over the time, I really wanted to continue playing, so that's definitely a good thing. The headliner is another Yakuza game, this time being Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth. As per usual, I can't comment too much on the actual game, since most of the time I spent with it was largely hands-off and just watching cutscenes. In this one, you start by playing as Ichiban Kasuga again, who was the main protagonist of the game before the last one, I think? Or at least the one before the last one we got in Humble Choice anyway. Apparently, he's now a reformed ex-Yakuza member working for Hello Work, which for those who don't know is the place in Japan you go to try and get your unemployment benefits if you lose your job, and they help try and find you new work. Anyway, that's exactly what Kasuga is doing, but more specifically trying to help out ex-Yakuza find their way. And really, that's it. He encounters a guy who is belligerent but eventually realizes that he needs help. Kasuga helps him, and there's a whole cutscene showing how this guy is now helping an investigative agency, Then after that, Kasuga is drinking with friends, presumably people players met in the previous game, and he has a crush on Sayako, so his friends help him by giving him advice, which results in about 4 more cutscenes. I'd say I probably ended up playing a grand total of about 15 minutes out of my hour and 20 minutes with the game, which is pretty much normal for a Yakuza game, it seems, at least as far as my first hours are concerned. Bottom line, the storytelling seems good, but I wish I understood more. As far as the gameplay goes, well, it's another go of turn-based combat. There were some interesting things with positioning, but really it felt like a Yakuza game to me with my very limited experience. I'm sure there's probably many other things to do in the form of minigames, which, again, would be very typical of the franchise. Actually, I was a bit surprised that we spent so much time in Japan because I thought the whole game took place in Hawaii, but I guess I was wrong. Additionally, there were some dialogue choices to make that affected various personality tracks, which I think is something new for the series, but again, I'm not the one to ask about that. It did seem interesting, and I wondered if it would result in any different outcomes. And with the risk of sounding like a broken record, I definitely want to come back to this game at some point because I'm sure I'd enjoy it. However, I really want to play the series in order first. Gotta get on that. Okay, let's wrap this up and see if this bundle is worth it or not. I based my rating solely on whether I thought the game was worth playing on about an hour or so of hands-on gameplay. Also, I'd be grateful if you could please give the video a like if you're enjoying it, and subscribe if you want to see more video game coverage in the form of reviews, first impressions, and of course, these Humble Choice videos every month. And if you're feeling extra generous, then you could buy me a hot beverage via YouTube Super Thanks, or consider joining my YouTube membership. Every little bit goes a long way in helping improve the channel. And actually, on that note, I have a couple exciting things to share. First, I want to take a moment to say thank you to Ryan Froelich, who became my first channel member. This is my shout out to you to say thank you for all you do to help support my creative endeavor. Secondly, contrary to what some might think, I'm not affiliated with Humble Bundle in any way, and they don't sponsor me to do any of these videos. That said, Instant Gaming reached out to me recently for a potential partnership, which I accepted. For those who don't know, Instant Gaming is a digital marketplace that sells discounted games. If you don't happen to want the whole bundle but are just looking to buy a single game a la carte, then maybe check out Instant Gaming. After doing some quick research, they have all the games on their site save for Conquest Dark, and only a Microsoft key for Infinite Wealth, which I think probably isn't ideal for many of you. That said, they run a monthly giveaway where you can potentially win any game from this bundle, or literally any game available on their website, which I assume also includes any newly released titles as well. To participate, you could use my giveaway link below. Additionally, if you want to support the channel while also adding to your endless backlog, then please use my affiliate link, and every purchase made gives me a small kickback. Thank you immensely. Overall, this month was a bit of a mixed bag, not gonna lie. There were some highs, but so many of these games are games I imagine that will just gather virtual dust for me. I'm never sure if Yakuza is a strong enough headliner, but given that the game was released only about 2 years ago, it's a pretty nice addition if you're really invested in the franchise, even if it feels about expected by now to receive our yearly Yakuza game in choice. Anyway, let's get to the recommendations. Actually, one final bit of announcements, but I wanted to turn your attention to Doodly Noted. He's another channel that just started doing Humble Choice reviews as of last June, and they are really good. Stevie clearly puts a ton of work into them, and I wanted to point you to his channel if you need a second opinion. Always love it when we get new Humble Choice reviewers, as it gives someone to compare my own notes with, as well as provide you guys with another perspective. So, also take a look at that link as well in the description and give his channel some love. Starting us at the top with the must-plays are actually 2 this month, which is pretty rare. The 2 games in question being Dead Cells and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Dead Cells definitely hit home that one more run feeling for me. The gameplay loop felt fun to master, and I wanted to keep pushing to get that incremental progression. I'm not really into grinding, but I could see myself trying to get every upgrade jar filled. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles surprised me, but it was a lot of fun to play. I know that my experience with my daughter is heavily influencing my decision, but nothing spells out a good family bonding like beating the crap out of ninjas and weird anthropomorphic animal thugs. In the strong recommendations, I placed Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. There are two things I always think when I play a Yakuza game when we get it in Humble Choice. The first is, oh crap, I still haven't played through a single Yakuza game yet. Why? And the second is, man, this game feels pretty fun, but I really want to start from the beginning. Especially because there's so many established lore that I feel like I'm missing out on. Without all that, it feels hard for me to say it's a must-play simply because of my own ignorance. I'm sorry, King Link, if you're watching. Maybe one day I'll feel confident placing a Yakuza game in the must-play, but it's not today. In the week recommendations, I placed Decktamer, Conquest Dark, Pile Up, and Dark Envoy. Decktamer had a unique blend of genres that is the obvious selling point, however, I do feel we've had other games like it in the past that had better presentations, which I probably would pick over this one if I wanted a deck builder. Conquest Dark's setting seems really cool, but I do think it's going to largely become a backdrop once the grind really sets in, which probably won't take long judging from all the things that needed to be leveled up. Pile Up felt like a fun distraction, but I don't know that it would be anything I'd play too seriously, similar to Drop Duchy last month. Finally, Dark Envoy had a fun combat system, but I felt the story and world just dragged the game down. Maybe it gets better, or maybe you can overlook that, but for myself, I'm not sure. Especially when I still haven't finished many other CRPGs we received in Humble Choice that I'd rather put my time into. In the Don't Bother With section this month sits Gatekeeper. And yeah, the argument could be made that it's a decent game dragged down by some uninspired design choices, but I really just felt it was kind of boring. Do you agree with my thoughts? What games, if any, are you looking forward to playing? Let me know what your thoughts are, if there are any different recommendations you'd make in the comments below. I hope this video helped you in some small way, and if it did, then please consider leaving a like, comment, subscribe, or whatever it is you feel like doing. Thanks for watching, and have a nice day.